Thanks once again to Nash Jones in their first appearance as a New Mexico in Focus correspondent. We have more information on the low staffing levels in the public sector on our social media pages, including a link to that report from the State Personnel Office. Now this fall, the National Hispanic Cultural Center begins working on a project to preserve a colonial Spanish dialect spoken only in northern New Mexico, a historical language that the center says could die within the next 18 years. The Legacy Project is a 3-year archival endeavor that will send members of the center into northern New Mexico to record and preserve the aging language. Center Director Zach Quintero recently stopped by our studio to discuss the project. Zach Quintero, thanks for joining me here on New Mexico in Focus.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course. The National Hispanic Cultural Center is about to begin the first of 3 years working on this Legacy Project. When had the Spanish dialect in northern New Mexico been spoken more commonly, and where exactly?
Sure. So this really builds around Rio Arriba County, starting in northern New Mexico, everywhere from Rio Arriba County to Mora County to Taos County. You saw an article recently in the last 5 months about the village of Cuesta, the town of Cuesta, and how they're specializing in a specific dialect that is traditional Spanish that goes back 200 years. And this specific type of dialect has been in existence for New Mexico for the last 400 years. And what we're trying to do with the Legacy Project is make sure that we serve as an audio and digital repository to collect, protect, and preserve this language for the entire state and for the entire country for that matter. And making sure that hundreds of years from now, when folks ask, different kinds of points of language and dialect and history where Spanish was being spoken in North America, they can say New Mexico.
Now, what is the cultural significance of the dialect in that area?
The cultural significance is vast, and it starts with not only the story of what built into being New Mexico as it is, alongside our indigenous communities, having shared family members, both Hispanic and indigenous, being able to talk about the larger concept of what really formed what we know now as the United States, and being part of the multicultural piece of what we now understand to be the United States. So it's really powerful on the cultural side to gather this information and collect this specific audio, video, and historic documents. We just received 2 weeks ago, a historic document going from Valencia County to Santa Fe County from 1841. And to date that for you, the Gadsden Purchase, didn't happen until after that. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo didn't happen until after that. The statehood of New Mexico didn't exist until after that. So 1841 is, going back quite far. And being able to house that here at the National Hispanic Cultural Center is really, really special for us.
Now, how did you and the Cultural Center decide on devoting your attention to this specific dialect?
It was a form of 2 parts. The first was the public awareness going around Hispanic communities and being a good conversation with community leaders and folks in different parts of northern, central, and southern rural New Mexico who were sharing that a lot of their language was being lost, that their grandkids couldn't understand a different kind of word that their grandmother was speaking or grandfather was speaking. So first from the community it came to our attention. The second part was the media attention we started to see from the national side about subject matter experts sharing that this dialect, this specific form of Spanish being spoken, was going to be extinct in 18 years. So we saw it as an anthropological time clock, that we had to go on an anthropological rescue mission here to work with our community to protect this language, this history, this spoken dialect, and preserve it. And that's exactly what our mission is at the National Hispanic Cultural Center.
Are there gaps in the language now? And how are you going to work to fill those gaps if there are some?
Sure, there's clear gaps, and that goes back to the state's history. There's been different practices done specifically to the Hispanic community about spoken Spanish. My parents, good example of that. They deliberately tried not to teach me Spanish because of how they were treated in public school, because of how they were treated in private sectors of the economy as well, trying to root out, and the root word that they'd like to use back in the day was assimilation, which is a very derogative term now. They wanted them to forget all parts of their Hispanic identity or Latina or Latino identity and make sure that they didn't know any other language but English. So there will be gaps, but what we're going to be able to do is work with different experts in the field that are linguists, first and foremost, starting from the community that speak this traditional Spanish, that are going to these interviews with us, that are talking with community members, that have trust within the community, that share with them and help us be able to share the full context and story of how this language has developed. We see different dialects from northeast New Mexico to northwest New Mexico, and everything from Castilian Spanish to Basque. And it's really interesting to see that kind of traditional Spanish still being spoken the way it was compared to the rest of the Americas. It's a really special way for us to be able to protect and preserve the full dialect in its entirety.
Sure. Now, are there any words or phrases common in this specific dialect that stand apart from traditional Spanish spoken elsewhere?
So the most common known one, I would say, just from the qualitative pieces that we pulled together, is plebe. So a lot of your viewers will know this word if they're Spanish-speaking viewers in that sense, and New Mexican, in particular Hispanic-speaking communities. Plebe is a translation of the word gente, another parallel word of it, right, which is people. So our people, plebe together. So our plebe, that's my person. That's our people right there. That's one of the traditional words that we've come across both in southern, central, and northern New Mexico. So we see tying trends of certain words being used over and over again. Plebe is one of them.
Who still speaks this dialect? And more specifically, who do you know that wants to speak this dialect still?
So the folks that still speak this dialect are, matriarchs and trusted elders of the Hispanic community, religious communities as well, protected communities that tend to be very private, and we're going to continue to respect that privacy, that have learned this language through religious songs, right? Through traditions during the holidays, through certain prayers, even on Fridays, to Saturdays, to Sundays, to Mondays, certain prayers of the day. They've learned it through their religious background. They've learned it through their community gathering background. They've also learned it through plants, through naming certain things the way they're named, and sharing that and then carrying that over to the traditional language. So,
how are you and your team working to gain trust in these communities where the dialect is spoken so that you can record and archive it, but also respect the people who are currently speaking it?
Well, it helps first and foremost to approach it from a place of humility and respect and understanding, I have an obligation as a New Mexican, as a Hispanic New Mexican, to ensure that I look at this through the eyes that is respecting the people that are speaking it right now. And that is talking with the community first and foremost of who is already speaking it in these communities, understanding the full scope of what kind of activities happen and what involves that language, and then being able to be part of it slowly and being able to share that we want to be able to protect that specific language with them slowly. And that kind of trust takes time, but it's something that I feel that we've been able to gather over the last 6 months in a very powerful way. Our first visit was to families in Mora, New Mexico, in Mora County, in the town of Mora, and being able to talk with certain family members about the form of dialect they use with their family, form of dialect they use in the community. That's a huge first step. And also working with key institution partners like UNM and New Mexico Highlands University, NMSU, Northern New Mexico College, places where people send their kids from New Mexico. New Mexico Hispanic students attend these kids, and they are speaking this language still, but they're going back to their family members and saying, hey, we heard about a project that involves the way that grandpa speaks Spanish or grandma speaks Spanish or the way that dad or mom speaks Spanish, and they connect with us. So it's very natural of what the connection takes place between the community and us, but it's first coming from a place of respect and honoring the language as it's being spoken in that area.
Sure. Now, you talk about a connection with the community. How will these families be able to, who are involved in the project, be able to access this information? Obviously, parts of northern New Mexico internet isn't as easy to come by as it is down here. Will there be a specific effort to keep these people involved compared to the rest of the general public?
Yes, so we're taking active trips in the field, making sure we stay in close contact with communities that don't have internet accessibility or have direct conversations with us as the National Hispanic Cultural Center. We have remote sites that we're setting up through the Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with some of our university institutions, where we're going to be able to have reoccurring interviews, reoccurring document scanning, so we can be able to show workshop practices to preserve traditional documents. Like I just mentioned, that document from 1841. That was donated to the center, and that was fantastic. And we're really grateful about those kinds of things, but we know more is out there. So we want to be able to show and share fellow Hispanic New Mexicans and different folks that have these documents how to protect their own family history, how to protect those documents so they can hold on to it and pass it on to the next generation. Or if they want to entrust it to us to protect it at the center and they can come see it, we're happy to do that too.
Now, there are several different perspectives from which an organization like yours can approach a situation like this or a project like this. As anthropologists, as historians, as social linguists, Are you and the center approaching it from one of those in particular, or is there value in approaching it from all three?
There's value in approaching it from all three. The main one we're approaching it first with is a point of pride and honor for the community, and making sure that we share it from the community's perspective first, and being able to connect with them and share what kind of documents, what kind of story, what kind of language they would like to be able to first just start off the conversation with. And then as that grows, be able to share the anthropological piece behind it, which is who taught you this, right? Where did it come from originally? This town over here speaks different from this town. Why is that? Building that narrative and timeline is the history part after that. And then following straight from that is the sociological component of how did that influence the mapping of language that we have right now in the state? How did it influence the mapping of the United States, for that matter? And what is being spoken now? So.
It's one thing, obviously, to archive and to preserve a language,
Sure.
but there's a clear and major value in that alone. But is there any plan to teach this, to disseminate it to people so that this does become a bit more common?
Sure. So the long-term goal that we have, 3 stages. The first short term is, again, building the community partners, which we're actively doing right now and successfully carrying out, and being able to do interviews and being able to pull together resources from different partners. Second part is being able to display the interim piece of what we pulled together, like those documents, and even another recording that we got from Cuba, New Mexico. We have a series of 15 tapes that we received on a track-to-track player. That's a very old school way of playing audio. And it's traditional Spanish being spoken in Sandoval County in Cuba, New Mexico. It's another precious artifact that now we're entrusted to be able to protect and preserve by Smithsonian standards of care. So that's the midterm part. The long-term piece is with these documents, with that audio, is serve it as a repository here at the National Hispanic Cultural Center so that when people are visiting, whether it be fellow New Mexicans or visitors to New Mexico that may not know a lot about the Hispanic community or want to learn more about Spanish-speaking communities, how it kind of developed, and visit the NHCC and be able to listen to this and make it interactive and be able to map it out and show the history of this and be able to show the words and what they mean and the significance it means culturally. So that people have more education and be able to come from a place of love and respect towards the Hispanic community.
Zach Quintero, thanks so much for joining me here on New Mexico in Focus.
Thank you so much for your time.